Trump campaign is now reaching voters online.
You are seeing the President of the United States. Look at the lines.
You joined our movement.
A lot of President Trump supporters here.
Greatest movement in the history of our country. The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race.
You ain't black.
Joe Biden has never been a friend to African Americans.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of what we call
Truth Over Facts.
China lied to us. They destroyed test kits. They lied to their own people.
Since Ronald Reagan, we haven't had a president more engaged and more involved in the Western Hemisphere than this administration, and it's been a great partnership to work with them on.
Well, you've heard of The View, but welcome to The Right View.
And with us today is the Motor City madman, Ted Nugent, because this isn't your typical political show.
It's the most important election in our lifetime.
Joe Biden, who has a dismal record of economic failure and absolutely terrible ideas for the future.
I'm in trouble.
We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump Online.
Obama comes up. There's no magic wand for that, Donald. You can't just make it happen. Well, abracadabra, buddy.
They were obviously triggered.
Biden is clearly on a teleprompter.
This is why I wrote the book Triggered, folks. Well, guys, it's great to be back on the Triggered podcast. We keep putting up the numbers. You guys keep asking for more, so we're bringing more. This week we have legendary comedian Jim Breuer from Saturday Night Live, back in the days when it was still funny, half-baked, stand-up improv. So if this is a total disaster, let's see what the improv does. Jim, thanks so much for being on with us. I'm going to start off with something a little bit unusual because contrary to the quote-unquote experts that were out there, you are literally one of a very small handful of people that called this in 2015. I remember you were on the Opie and Anthony show. I was on that show. We'll play you the clip now. I used to go on there all the time and still go on with Jim and them now, but you were on there calling this prediction. Let's check out the clip, and then I'd love to get your thoughts on that and what you see coming up.
Absolutely.
I will say this about Trump. I don't know I know zero, but I could tell. Do you remember when Obama first ran?
Sure.
And everyone said this, I would never vote for that. Oh, I'm voting for him. No one said they were voting for him because it was the wrong thing to do, or they thought, they didn't want to be categorized as like, I would never vote for. But when they got in the booth, they pulled that trigger. That's what's going to happen with Trump. I could see it a mile away.
All right. So now that you've seen that, you are a great soothsayer. You predicted what, again, all these so-called experts, and I say expert very, very loosely, Jim, because we've seen they haven't been right about anything for about the last 4 years. They've got Trump derangement syndrome, and it's affected them badly. But you were all over this way back before anyone saw it. Tell me what you were seeing, and what do you see now? What's the difference?
Well, one thing you got to understand is, I used to have a radio show on Sirius XM. And after 9/11, I was me and a couple of my friends, we have different views on media. And our show was all about no media, no news. They are the Antichrist. They're not here to inform us. They're here to control us. That is it. Case closed. So if you called it, we would actually play games where we could tell if someone watches the news. And this is back in the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
So I do everything not to get involved with politics because you can hear parrots. I'll sit in a coffee shop and you just hear Nazi, 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 racist, racist, racist. It's just so you can hear that these people are speaking. So My whole life, I surround myself with everyone I grew up with because of their morals, because of their faith. They keep me grounded. We're all married, children, whatever. And most of them, like myself, have come from a very blue-collar world. And when Donald Trump was first running, I went, listen, I'm going to be honest, I went, the reality, seriously, is this where we're going? This is where we're going. And I was more worried about what the world would think, but I was like, whatever. And then I would ask my friends, every single one of them, they said, I'm voting for Trump. And I'd go, why? They go, Jim, if you watch his debates, he don't need the money. He speaks real. He's not a politician. He can't get paid off. Because I'm voting for, and it was one after the other. We're talking about an accountant that works at a major hospital. We're talking about a guy that works in construction. I'm also talking about another guy that works for an airline. These are real people. These aren't another one that is a police officer. All my brothers are police officers. So I went, wow. But they all were afraid to say it. And that was very alarming to me that people were afraid. So I knew once they go in the booth, I think this guy I think he's going to pull it off. And I can tell you, I have a friend that works at FedEx and everyone, I think I was in Florida and I woke up in the morning, I had 1 million texts like, holy great, he won. But at the same time, we couldn't even celebrate because you had madness I've never seen madness like this in my life.
They literally did all of the things they accused the Trump supporters of doing, right? There were going to be riots and Trump supporters are going to burn down things and they're going to destroy it. It was literally all the leftists doing that.
35th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
So, that was crazy. And I always tell sort of an interesting story, Jim, about my times during that, because I was on the ground. I was in middle America. My hobbies and the outdoors sort of take me there. So I had a similar experience understanding that, listen, I acknowledge and I have to disclaim everything in 2020 with, I get it. I'm the son of a billionaire from New York City. I have no business. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm not allowed to do any of those things. But I saw it too. And on election day, it was funny. We're getting these polls. And it was like, man, we're underperforming in certain areas. But it was exactly the same as some of the telephone polling we did. We would do online polling and telephone polling, right? To the same huge sample sizes, right? So statistics would dictate that you're within a basis point or two, but the difference between online and telephone was 15%. So when people were on a phone talking with someone and they weren't sure where they were coming from, I'm writing in Jill Stein. I'm voting for Bernie. When they were like at a computer all by themselves and it was going to be their little dirty secret, it's like Trump. And so on election day, we saw that, man. Areas that were like, we're supposed to win this area by 3. They're like, you're down by 12. It's going to be a slaughter. I go, so give me the breakdown. They're like, well, this many people for Hillary, this many for people for Trump, and this many people are giving you the finger. I go, if you take all the people that are giving you the finger and put them in the Trump category, where are you? They're like, we're 3 points ahead. I go, that's where we're supposed to be. That's the finger guy, that's a Trump voter. It literally held across the board. So it was an interesting phenomenon. Where do you see those guys today? Where do you see them, now versus then? Do they have to be just as secretive? Can they be or can they be?
No. It's coming out. This is the brilliance. There's 2 things I want to say, Donnie. One is, after the election, I went on a tour. I played Staten Island, San Francisco, San Diego, New Hampshire, Boston. I played the most democratic, liberal areas in the country. And I hit pretty much every, and I would tell all my friends, I went, this guy won by way bigger. I don't know what the poll said. I don't buy that she won the popular election, because and even today, when I go to, I was on I don't want to put his name out there, but I was on a major show out in California. And when we were off the air, he said, we can't do this anymore. We can't live it. We just got to get these people out. They're I don't even know what they are. I don't know if they've sold to communists. I don't even understand what's going on. So even I felt that these are real people and with big microphones. To hear them, and I said, well, why didn't you say that on camera? They fear for saying something. So how do I feel now, or what do I see now? I see now people aren't afraid anymore. Yeah. You know, I go up the street, there's a Trump sign the size of my house. I went to Florida right before.
Well, tell that guy I said thank you, okay?
I will, and I'll send you the picture of it. I see cars. And now in the past, you know, if I go to a coffee shop, where people were afraid to bring him up, now they go, well, you know, this and that and that, and there's no way I'm for him 100%. They were afraid before. They're not afraid anymore.
Well, and that's good to hear.
Common sense factor was kicked in.
Well, and that's the thing. I always say the only thing not common in D.C. is common sense.
There is not.
That's been gone for a long time. But you're right about sort of, you know, that Democrat Party. I mean, they sort of had, you know, they have the stranglehold on so many minority communities. But when you look at the actual policies, it doesn't make sense. But they really had a stranglehold on like blue collar America for a long time. Now, there was a time in history where that made sense. But if you look at, like, I always say, I wrote about it in my book, Triggered. I go, like, if you look at that historic blue collar vote and like their morals, their beliefs, their politics, and you compare that to today's Democrat Party, I go, this ain't your grandparents' Democrat Party anymore. This isn't even your parents' Democrat Party anymore. They've totally lost their way. They've abandoned those people, and though there's still like this history, like I'd see it in the Midwest. It was like, hey, Don, you know, you know, my grandfather or my father, you know, if he knew I was voting for a Democrat or a Republican, he'd be rolling over in his grave, Don. And I go, well, like, how many genders would your grandfather say that there are? What would your father say about X, Y, Z policy? Wait, what was his thoughts on socialism? And he goes, oh my, you're right. And so they were Democrat voters their whole lives, but they never realized that the party left them. They didn't leave the party, and so that realization struck. So I'm hoping that's happening elsewhere, where people wake up and realize, like, what is it? Like, this party doesn't seem to represent anything that they used to anymore. The Democrats, they've lost their minds and their way, and they really seem to represent, basically, if you're not an American, the Democrat Party may offer you something. Otherwise, there's not a lot there.
There's two examples I can make. One is in my family, and what you know is there's this thing about joining a team, which makes you delusional. You go, that's my team, no matter what. That's it. They're the best, and they're focused on their team, and they will allow anything from their team, whether it's morally right. It's disturbing. It makes no sense, but they go, well, that's my team. Even in sports, let's just take sports, okay? Yeah. I'm a diehard Mets fan, okay? I can honestly say—
I'm sorry.
I know you are. I can honestly say when a couple of the Mets were in trouble for doing something with their wives, if that was someone in my family, I would go, what you do? You got to— You shoved your— what kind of sick— I would take them for a ride, and we'd have it to them. But here I am, because it's my team, going—
You're backing into like a reason to be like, it's not that bad.
Well, you know, they might have been drinking, and she might have threw something at him, and you know, he's emotionally. But I caught myself going, oh my God, this is team derangement. I was on my street. Well, too late. I already said it. On my street, this person— well, they wouldn't watch the show anyway. They're walking down the street, and the first thing— and I've been over this person's house, and she goes, are you voting? And I went, I don't get into politics. I don't talk politics, but I like listening. And she goes, well, I'm a Democrat. I said, oh, okay. And we believe in this, and blah, blah, blah. And this one's racist, and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, well, what happened that makes you say racist? And, you know, well, the thing, and I, you know, blah. And then we're smart, and we're from this college. It ends with, and these people that are angry about their jobs and they're protesting, I swear to God, I hope they get sick and they die a miserable death. F them for going out there. And I went, oh my God, where have we come as a society where you're so tunnel vision, you're hoping to die. And that's what's alarming to me. When you start saying anyone, if you want to attack Trump, knock stuff. Oh, the one thing was one of my family members. I love him to death. Everything he believes in. I believe in this type of immigration. I believe in this thing. And everything Trump said, I said, he's saying everything. Yeah, but I got to vote Democrat. Like, but how do you feel about that? Well, I'm totally against. Like, what? I don't understand. I don't get it.
Hopefully we're breaking those perceptions, because you're right. They are there. I'm telling you, like, these guys would come up to me and they're like, they're looking to see if any of their, their local union guys or whatever it is. I mean, again, we had relationships with so many of these guys because we were builders before, my father got into politics. So I was like, so wait a second, like, you're going to vote Democrat because the union says so. But, like, honestly, who's done more with union labor than Trump? Like, oh, well, I never thought of that. And how about, like, who understands more about what's going on? And you slowly start talking to them, and they were like, okay, like, I'm with you guys, but don't tell anyone. Like, they were there. Maybe the bosses weren't, because they've been bought and paid for by the DNC for so long. But you said it sort of best yourself, which is, a couple of years ago, you weren't going to get political. You didn't talk about these things. What about now? I mean, listen, in your world, coming out of comedy, coming out of, whether it's Hollywood and that set, I mean, it ain't easy to be a conservative. I mean, you are you're a serious minority in that case, being a conservative in Hollywood, and certainly being a bit more vocal. And then you add the trifecta of all of that, which is being a vocal Trump-supporting conservative, and that's like, oh my God, that's the the nuclear bomb of Hollywood.
Well, two things. Hollywood doesn't hire me for anything, so I'm not worried about Hollywood. Also, when I was on Saturday Night Live, and my career was peaking, right? And I asked to quit because morally it was draining me. I'm an all for one for all guy, and that industry, you're driven by ego, vanity, self-righteousness, and you will sell your soul, and I mean you will sell your soul to get to the top. You will slice that throat and watch them drip out. You will steal ideas and take them. And my wife would go, why'd you quit? You become a miserable human being. Like, are you out of your mind? You don't quit. And it was the greatest thing. And I can't be. I don't like anyone. I don't like it out there. It's for me, I found nothing but soullessness. Yeah. And what I'm starting to notice as well is certain politicians have become soulless, and they are pushing out their agendas, pretending they're for the people, but they are driven by self-righteousness, by ego, by power, by destruction. And it's very alarming. I had there's a guy in town, he's from Portugal. And he would come in, he'd listen to us, and people going for Bernie and blah, blah, blah. And I swear on my kids' lives, he'd go, hey, let me tell you guys something. I came from socialism. You guys think you want it. It ain't just free stuff. Yeah. There's secret police. The way you guys are talking in this cafe, they come knocking on your door at 3 a.m. and they go, say goodbye to your family, come with us. And you'll never see the guy. Well, guess what? We are at that right now. Yeah, it happened to me. I didn't have a mask, and people videotaping me going, hey, I'm calling the police.
Get out! Yeah, go to act like a dirty
if you think that's the right thing, I'm sorry. You have lost your mind to the mind control.
Yeah,
you
well,
are mind controlled.
I experienced that. I mean, hey, I've been unmasked by the FBI and the highest forms of government. They started spying on us. All of this stuff's coming out in this couple weeks. But I also say, you know, I have a mother that escaped communism, right? My mother escaped communist Czechoslovakia. And like one of the great things of my life, and it sort of, you know, put everything into perspective for me. And I wrote, basically triggered, this was like the initial thesis of it, like socialism, no bueno. Like there's a reason the boats only go one way. And I've spent, you know, 6 weeks every summer of my childhood growing up in communist Czechoslovakia and the experiences and the breadlines and the this. And everyone's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I actually did. Because my grandfather, who was a blue collar guy, he was an electrician. He goes, what you have in America is so great. It's so incredible. Like, to fully appreciate that, you actually have to see exactly the opposite. And so he immersed me in that. And it was one of the great sort of early political life lessons. You know, at the time, I had no idea what was going on other than, like, I'm seeing, like, this is weird shit, essentially. Yeah. But, you know, now I can look back and be like, thank God he did that because, man, that everything's for free, even though it's not. Like, it sounds so alluring. It's so great. And, I mean, and you see the arena by which they're pushing this. I mean, you have a great analogy, Jim, where you talk about sort of politics as professional wrestling.
Wrestling. You know, it's professional wrestling. It's to the T. It's basically... you know, our opponent believes in capitalism. He's a racist. Don't you believe he hates Mexicans? Yeah. We are going to give everything for free. Who wants free stuff? Give us free. Give us free. We believe that women should have a right. Women's rights. Women. It's comical. It's frightening at the same time. The boat that I just watch one after the other fall off the cliff, one after the other. Whatever they sell, they come out with their T-shirts like, we have a right, and everyone has rights, and everyone. Is anyone really fighting for that? Did we lose it somewhere? Did your father come in with German shepherds? Like, were we going door to door? Show us the women. There'll be no more voting for anybody with breasts and have the female gene. I didn't see any of that. I never heard him say no more voting. Women are allowed to work anymore. I was like, where the hell is going on? It was the scariest thing. And still is. Okay, but if we're going to go with the wrestling analogy, though, I mean, how's Biden going to do against Trump at WrestleMania at the debates? Or is he even going to show up? Is this guy going to show up? It's not going to be fun. And I'll tell you, talk about wrestling. When your father did the State of the Union, that was, I would tell my friends, that was the greatest professional wrestling display I've ever seen in my life. Because he walked into the arena and you had the people in the white. He's got like the Vince McMahon strut, you know. He came in, he's doing this. And then he goes to shake the hand. Yeah. But this is the best part. This was, I to this day say it was the greatest show I've ever seen. Me go, you know, some people like to let in anyone. They call it a sanctuary state. And they take illegal criminals that have committed horrors like rape and killing. As a matter of fact, we have one of the victims here. Section 301, stand up. And by the way, that was amazing. I was sitting right there. But then watching, like, you know, they talk about all-time low African-American unemployment numbers. And all the Democrats in the Congressional Black Caucus are sitting there like,
the unemployment rate for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans has reached the lowest levels in history.
I mean, isn't that something like we can all agree is a good thing? I mean, you may not like the guy. You don't have to agree with everything he says or the way he does it, but like, isn't that a good thing for the Congressional Black Caucus? But nope, you can't because Trump did it, not Obama. And therefore, you know, we can't even acknowledge it.
They play the race card, they play everything. And then the part of that night, too, and he goes, you know what, though? For victims like you, I want to pass a bill where you, the victim, can sue this chick behind me. And she's sitting there. It looks like Fire Marshal Bill behind him. It is the scare. How do you even... Am I the only nutball that sit there and watches Biden try to talk? Or if this was Fred,
listen,
my neighbor...
I want to hear a little bit about that because I want to maybe get Goat Boy's take on Biden. And what would, like, Saturday Night Live do about Joe Biden back in the day when they were funny? But we got to go to a break for a few minutes, and we'll be back with Jim Breuer. There's a lot more here, I think. Thanks, guys.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Take a look at my record, man.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I marched with tens of thousands of others.
He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement and kept telling the story anyway.
I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff.
Now, his aides went back to say, look, he was in office marching for the idea.
That's not what the word marching means.
On Twitter.
I was not out marching.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
And you ain't black.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You ain't black. You ain't black. You ain't black. You ain't black.
The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race.
You ain't black.
Okay, guys, we're back with legendary comedian Jim Breuer. We're talking all things politics, fun, what's going to happen in 2020, what he saw in 2015 before everyone else. But, Jim, you were on Saturday Night Live when it was actually still funny. I mean, now it just seems like vicious. I mean, I feel like I'm watching MSNBC if I do tune in on the rare occasion that I do. I mean, what would Saturday Night Live in your day have done to Joe Biden, given that the guy, I mean, literally a good day at the office is knowing what state he's in, and he only gets that right about 50% of the time. I mean,
I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town. I mean, this is sort of a scenic, beautiful town. The mayor's been a good guy.
First of all, you have a million sketches would have done. Tracy Morgan used to do The View. I just saw Biden on The View. It was, I don't know when the clip was. I don't know if it was recently, but he was on The View and they said,
women accuse you of touching them without their permission. Are you sorry for what you did? Are you prepared to apologize to those women?
Look, here's the deal. I am so, like, for example, I actually thought in my head when I walked out here. I mean, I know. We're friends.
It's tricky.
You know, do you want to apologize? And he went, you know, sometimes when the chickens wake up at 7 o'clock, they like to whistle. Well, for me personally, I like oranges because asparagus is good for the soul. But I was there. I was there in 1942, and they're all looking like, now if this was Fred across the street, I'd be saying, someone's got to put him away. Someone's got to go change his diaper. He's dropped 3 deuces in his pants.
Programs. Or stop work on roads and bridges. So what does the human cost?
But this is who you're running for president?
Well, it's scary because, like, this is the best they've got. I mean, they went through a 4-year-long process to try to find this, and this is who is the best representation of the Democrat Party. I mean, what planet are we on?
It's not fair. How is he gonna? It's not fair. I don't know how do you debate this? I don't know where this goes. I feel bad. I don't feel bad for him, but I somewhat feel bad for the man. But let me, on a deeper level, think about this. You clearly are putting a person out there that is not there. He's out of his mind. He needs help. He's clearly either dying or has dementia, but yet you're with. See, this is
our guy.
Hollywood. Well, but even besides, that's our guy. no one has the morality to step in and help. No one says anything.
Well,
they
that's what I
sit
say
there. Nobody
all the
says
time.
nothing.
I
It's
say,
like,
listen.
how do you do that? How do you
If his
sit there?
family wasn't making billions, whether it's the son with the Chinese government and the 83 grand a month from Ukraine and $1.5 billion from the Chinese government, like, if they weren't making money off of his political office, like, you think they'd be like, hey guys, our time is long past. But they're not going to do that. But what's scarier is that, like, I always say this: imagine Donald Trump made one Joe Biden slip once a month. Meaning Joe Biden does this shit every day. I mean, he does it. I mean, he doesn't remember what state he's in 50% of the time. They would have every television psychologist and every Hollywood psychologist on TV full-time saying Donald Trump's in the later stages of a combination of Alzheimer's and dementia. He's lost his mind and there is no recovery, 25th Amendment. Yeah. No one's saying anything. They're just like, nope, he's great. He's perfect. I mean, I can't imagine a world where the bias is more flagrant. I mean, for years they've been doing, my father literally trolled them and took a cognitive test administered by an admiral in the Navy who works in the White House and was appointed by Obama to be like, he goes, he aced it. It's perfect. Like, and he gives it to the press, and they're doing a press conference about his health, and the media is basically so you're saying there's a chance though that he could maybe die. He's like, yeah, well, it's maybe 1 in a billion. I mean, anything. So you're saying he's dying, but Joe Biden, it's like these are major. They're not mistakes or little gaffes. These are major errors. He doesn't know what's going on. Look at what he did this weekend.
More questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Oh, you're not black if you're not voting for me. I'm like, really? You're like, now you are the self-appointed king of all blacks. This was a skit from one of the comedian shows. I mean, how is this possible? And then you get the media trying to cover for him when there would be outrage if the shoe was on the other foot. If Trump did that, if a mainstream conservative did that, it would be over for them. Their lives would be over. But Joe Biden, it's nothing to see here, folks. Let's just back to business. Go back to normal.
Wear your mask 6 feet apart. Joe's coming.
No, it's insane. That's not a mask that he was wearing this weekend, though. I think it's a muzzle. They put on a muzzle. No, they put on a muzzle on Joe Biden because they don't want him going around and sniffing children. But would you guys have had fun with that in the Saturday Night Live days?
Let me tell you something.
Come on.
If he did that once in my house, if he was invited over a barbecue, if anyone was invited to my house with a barbecue and he did that to anybody there, I would have dragged him by the neck and brought him to the front of the yard. Go, you all right, man? Because it's a little weird the way you sniffed it. Did you see the kid felt a little uncomfortable?
You would think
even the mother felt uncomfortable.
You would think that would be a basic
there's no marches for that. There's no marches for that. There's no rights for that. Where are they? I got my binoculars. Where are they? I don't see them anywhere. Nowhere.
A basic test for the presidency would be like, you would think you'd feel comfortable leaving your 5-year-old with someone for a few minutes. Meaning that should be a test that just about anyone that would be in elected office or, frankly, anything should be able to pass. And you're like, I just don't know. I'm not going to roll the dice on this one. There's way too much weird stuff. And then, I got in trouble. I put up a joke meme about it a couple of weeks ago. And, the New York Times wrote a hit piece on me. The CNN, Anderson Cooper, and, Tapper got their panties all in a bunch, and they're going nuts. So I responded with a 4.5-minute video clip of him sniffing children. And now they're outraged. I'm hearing the New York Times
which are facts, by the way,
hit piece on me because I called out their guy for nonsense. Because they're like, well, Donald Trump Jr. misstated things because it was actually in a congressional testimony. I go, no, I get it. It was in a congressional swearing. I didn't say otherwise. But the fact that he's comfortable enough to do this weird shit in that environment, like, what's he doing off camera? Like, what the hell is going on here?
If you're that comfortable on camera, sniff it. I mean, the cameras are on you. The parents are there, and he's going in for the kill, and he's got his arm wrapped around him, and nobody.
And the kids they're mortified. They're scared. I mean,
horrified.
You see the looks on their faces. I mean, you go look at it on my Instagram if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's truly scary stuff.
It's traumatizing.
But I'm the bad guy for pointing out this weird stuff. The media is totally innocent for not even mentioning any of these things because it's their job to protect Joe Biden. And again, you see that in Hollywood. I mean, I don't want you to out anyone. I mean, maybe I do, but I don't want you to out anyone. But like, there are people, and I hear this from all of my friends that are sort of in that world or still have friends in that world. There's a lot more support there. But like, what's the deal with, comedy and Hollywood that you just have to basically run like media with the Democrat talking points? What's going on there? And when do people have enough of it?
Well, here's the deal. I can honestly say the biggest of biggest comedians out there, all right, that are out there now. Your Joe Rogans, your Sebastian Maniscalcos, the rock stars. I'm not tagging. They either stay away from politics, but the ones that have made some television, they clearly are extremely left, extremely liberal, and that is their choice. But I would often watch and go, how is this one still in the spotlight? And it wasn't an envy thing. It was more a confusion thing. And then I say this. This is what I tell people. Listen, no matter what world you join, you have to join the club.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe.
And in order to get the club, you got to show up to the events. And at the events, your bosses make sure you're all on the same team. You want that funding for the next movie? You
got to kiss the right ass, right?
Movie? Right here. Give me that big fat. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now remember all these talking points that I gave to you. And remember, you'll all be doing me a favor when I need you the most. I'll have the Jets pick you up, and I'll make sure you'll be on the biggest stages to keep you on the highest of all spotlights. Send the thunder. I've seen it time and time again. I won't get into details, but you can see when someone, and I've seen it with my own two eyes, someone's hovering right here, and then they go, and I go, oh, the public doesn't know about that. And then I see the next one go, pew, because they join a certain club. Now, listen, people are talented. I'm not talking about they're not talented and all that jazz. But that's what I tell some of my friends. I go, listen, I'm telling you, it's a club, and you have to walk the guide. If I'm worth $1 billion, if my product is worth $100 million every time I'm in a box office draw, it's being backed by the same person that owns this company and this bank and these politicians, and they all drive the same agenda. And if you go off the agenda, we just can't find you a part this year.
You're out.
That's it.
Well,
You're
so
out.
we saw that. I mean, Roseanne Barr had like an off-color tweet that she put out. And I mean, brilliant comedian. I mean, she had a hit show at the time, and she was just canceled. I mean, again, I'm not saying I condone the tweet, but like she apologized, and that wasn't good enough. But if you're on the other side, if you're on the left, you can say the most vile stuff, do whatever I'm sorry. Okay, that's great. Half the time you don't even have to apologize. I mean, talk a little bit about cancel culture.
We can cancel you, by the way, which is the stupidest shit that I've ever witnessed in my 40 years of life. The whole idea of I can kill you today with the goddamn click of a button. I can end your life. By the way, this is a real feeling that people have.
Yes.
I'm in control of your life. If I want your life to stop and be over, I'll cancel you.
Yeah.
And that means you can't live no more. This is how ridiculous it is. Think about the meaning of cancel culture. So you're saying that my life is over, I can no longer survive or provide for myself? Cancel.
Because they did it to Roseanne, who's brilliant. And, conveniently, she had a blue-collar show that sort of defined...
Sorry.
Oh, it's a good drop. Good catch.
Good.
Good recovery. Good improv. But, you know, she had a comedy show that sort of defined even the Trump voter. And it's like, we can't humanize that person, so now we got to cancel her. You saw, you know, Kevin Hart at the Oscars. I think it was, you know, Chappelle that basically quoted sort of the trans mafia, which was like, hey, you don't want to cross those guys. And, you know, maybe he's at the point where he's just so big, he can say, you know, let's
You
screw
can't
it.
touch Dave.
We're going in. And that's why I thought his special was so good, because he sort of called out all of these, like, special interests that seem to be, you know, really disproportionately special. The treatment that they're given, the favoritism that they're getting, you know, they don't want to be equal. They want to be way more than equal. They're not fighting for equality anymore. They're fighting for something way beyond equality. You know, talk about that cancel culture and what you've seen as part of it.
Again, I'll put it part of an agenda, which is clear. And I know a lot of these people. I know some of these actors, these comedians and everything. The scary part is, and this is when I get offended, and even just morals and thou shalt not judge. They're all quick to judge. If you want to go against Trump or your political, I'm not for that one, that's fine. But when you're in the celebrity, when you're a celebrity, when you're a star, and you start going after the followers,
yeah.
Well, now because that's all I would hear is like, you know, they're racist. You don't know my family. You don't know the walk we've walked. You don't know the struggles you don't know where we came from. I grew up in low-income housing.
Yeah.
And I went from there to we lived on top of someone's house. You don't know the struggles we lived in. So when you're sitting there barking, going, racist, sexist, racist, it is time to go, hey, since when are you holier than thou? But that's how big their club is, Donnie.
Yeah.
They control media. Listen, I had a guy, me and my wife, we went to LA, and I forgot where we were flying there. And we got off the plane, and I'm not even anywhere close to Hollywood. I mean, I've been out of it for 20-something years. TMZ comes running up to me, camera in the face. Hey, what do you think about blah? The lights on, people staring at us, and I went like this. Now, my instinct was to slap the camera out of his hand and grab him, and say that the Long Island kid come out.
Yeah.
But what I did was I took the camera. I go, can I ask something? Where'd you grow up? And he's like, oh, I said, would you ever allow this? Someone coming up to your parents doing this? Would you allow someone doing this to your wife? What are you trying to get? I get it if you came up to me and you said, excuse me, can I talk to you? You ran up to me. And you don't see what an invasion and how psychotic that is, but they're all part of the club, Donnie. And now this club has to be defeated. They've gained too much. They've infiltrated too much fear in too many lives. They're controlling jobs. They're controlling people. I still see people living in fear, videotaping. That is a sick, twisted agenda.
Well, I saw that myself, and I saw a lot of it, you know, even in the last week. I mean, whether it's, hey, you know, I get the hit pieces written about me when I talk about, like, the Hunter Biden and all the corruption and billions. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, they're telling me they're like, kids of politicians are off limits. I go, he's 15. Like, that didn't stop them from trying to throw me in jail for 3 years. That doesn't stop them from attacking my 5-year-old daughter. It doesn't stop them from attacking Barron Trump. So Barron Trump at 13, whatever he was last time they attacked him, every few months they do that.
So while the president can name his son Barron, he can't make him a Baron.
13's okay, but I can't go after the Democratic son that's making billions from his father's, taxpayer-funded office. Like, explain this to me, because I'm not sure I fully understand. I mean, and also, like, to the point of, people sort of selling out to that mob. I mean, I dealt with it for the last 2 weeks. Like, Howard Stern basically went out. And again, I'm used to, like, you want to attack me, my family, 100%. Like, an open season, fine. But when he was like, I hope all those Trump supporters die. Like, I blame you. I'm like, really? Like, these are the people that made Howard Stern. These are, who do you think is more likely Howard Stern listener? A Trump supporter or a Hillary supporter? Like, it's not even close. But now that he got in the club, ooh, he likes the club a lot. Hollywood Howard wants to be in the club. And, you know, he just turned on literally all of the people that got him to the place where he could be in that club. And that's what pisses me off the most about it. Again, I'm used to it. I've taken everything that everyone could throw at me. I could care less anymore. I got a thick skin. It's when you attack those guys who just want a better life. They want to live the American dream rather than export it to some country that hates our guts. That's what annoys me. Why don't you take a second? You're holding your camera. You want to fix your camera for a second, and then we'll get...
Yeah, because my arm's killing me.
Yeah, okay. Fix your camera. We'll get back at it.
We choose truth over facts.
Well, Howard's been very good to me.
Yeah.
Very, very good to me. He's helped me out tremendously. And again, I have to think of, I didn't even hear it. A couple of my friends came up to me and they're like, hey man, you know, your buddy. I'm like, well, when I'm on there, I'm on there. But I wish, do I wish he wouldn't say things like that? Yeah, I wish he wouldn't, because at the end of the day, he's talking about some very close friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for all I know, I don't know. You know, I know he had Como on there. I can't stand Como. If you can't see through that, I mean, just common sense, you can't see through that. It's, that's none of my business at the end of the day. It's none of my business.
Well, I think that's the point. People can have an opinion, and people can, you know,
but I don't like
in politics, everyone's got one, but you then group everyone else in there.
Don't say they should all die. I'm gonna. Have to
that's when I got involved.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I got involved, and and again, like at what other
point
in history?
Why should he die? Why should he die? For what?
At what other point in history would a guy like me get involved with a guy like Stern to pick a fight? But like, I think that's the point.
Happened?
That he's trying to be relevant to a different crowd? Is he trying to attract, meaning like the people that he now loves and has on the show were the people that he hated all the time?
Well, this is what I want to know. The people when they say that, why do you want them all to die? Why? What do you hate? I can't get answers. I can never get an answer. What do you hate? Well, I don't like the way he... Did he say something? Like, I don't... This is when nobody has an answer. Nobody... If I say, well, what did he say? Well, I don't know. It's clear. He's against the environment. He's against the what? He's against the environment. He's against being better people. They don't even know what they can't define anything. And that's the part where I don't understand. But when you're in a powerful position, when you got a lot of followers, like I said, if you want to say against whatever political party, fine. But don't insult the people that follow them, because you don't know who they are. And they may be paying for your salary at the end of the day. So you got to be very careful with that. Very careful with that.
Yeah,
and I take
I
offense
agree.
to stuff like that.
I agree. Like I said, that's when I got involved, because I'm used to taking the slings and arrows.
So you went at it with him? What happened? Tell me what happened.
Not really. I mean, we, back and forth. I just, no, but it's sort of funny. Like, when would a business guy like me, I talk shit on Twitter at times, and I do this kind of stuff. Like, there was a time where it's like, you'd never mess with Howard Stern, but now it's like, I don't know if it's trying to be relevant. I don't know that he lost the base that he once had, because, again, now Donald Trump was on, I think, 2 of the top 10 Sterns of all time, according to Stern, when he got off the regular air. And so, again, I don't mind, you don't maybe like the politics and fine, but to then go against the supporters, but also to forget, like, my brother did a lot of stuff, and his wife, for, like, North Shore Animal League and stuff like that, like Stern's charities, like helping them out, pushing that, and it's like, there's no mention of that either. It's like, we're only going to talk about the bad, but we're not going to talk about the good, because we're selling that narrative that you talk about. It's like, these are the talking points in media, in Hollywood, from the DNC, and I am not going to veer from them, even if I know otherwise. So it's some of that disloyalty that I think just sort of got to me, which is like, whether it's, and again, not loyalty just to me, but to the fan base that allowed someone to get there. So again, it doesn't matter. This is probably more attention than he's gotten in years, maybe because of that change in attitude or whatever reason. So it doesn't really matter, but it's been interesting to be a part of it.
Well, just anyone in general. I even heard a comedian the other day say something, and I really felt like reaching out to this person and go, you know what? Just because you did a couple movies, well, this is the thing too. When I talk about celebrities, they reach a point where at the end of the day, just because you were in a movie that was worth X, Y, and Z, or you did a song that's now become, that doesn't make you smart. It doesn't make you the voice that knows all.
Alyssa Milano is now the voice of science, geopolitical issues. It's like, I don't know, maybe not, but you're right. I mean, there is sort of, and hey, I'm probably guilty of it myself, right? You sort of, hey, I got a lot of followers, so I can.
You know what
move
they
the
do?
Needle.
You know what their job is, Donnie? You know what acting is called?
They're pretending to be something else.
They're make-believing. And that's what the Oscars should be. The best make-believer in the world goes to, yay, you know how to pretend. They're make-believe, and they have multiple times to pull off the make-believe. They don't knock it out one shot. There's a guy editing. There's 500 shots. They play make-believe. But then the stardom and the security and the money and the power, like Scarface. First you get the money, then you get the power, then you talk politics. What's the matter with you? They lose their minds, and it drives me crazy because they don't know anything. Yeah. Nobody knows anything.
I agree. It's sort of amazing. So like, hey, we already talked sort of a little bit of, Chappelle, he's
Dave
so beyond that.
By the way.
He is. I mean,
He's brilliant.
Some of the stuff that, probably got me through college, I don't know if you can air it anymore, but it's some of the best comedy I've ever seen. I thought the special on Netflix was incredible.
Just afraid of being attacked. Happens to the best of us. Don't ever forget what happened to that French actor. You know what I'm talking about? Juicy Smouillet. He's a very famous French actor. Y'all never heard of Juicy Smouillet?
But are there other guys, maybe, that don't have his name that are pushing back against, the PC nonsense? And are there guys out there?
I think Rogan does. I think Rogan. Bill Burr. Bill Burr's a monster. Bill Burr is an absolute monster with that. I think Rogan does. I'm sure there's many others, and they're going to come out louder and louder. Mark my word, that is going to be the next new wave because I did it I went on tour, okay, and just before this ended, I think I put out a bit a while ago about people being offended. When my daughter went to college, she went to college, all right? 18 years, no problems in her house. Dad, she came home, I was sexist, racist, anything that ended with an ist, I became. I couldn't order Thai food without getting a lecture of how I spoke. It was madness. And I'm like, this is what I'm paying for. What are they teaching you at these universities? It's utter freaking madness. So I think, and when I would do this, I would talk about all this. I'm telling you, the crowds, I thought they would get up and start throwing things in excitement. They were. So, because I start off the show always going like this. Listen to me. I'm blue collar. I'm not politically correct. I grew up in the 80s. So if you're easily offended, please leave now. And the place erupts every show. And I go, do you see? Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. We put up with you, but then we talk about why do we spend time with these individuals? They've tried to control everyone else for too long. It's over. Yeah. It's over. The pushback has started, and we don't want to fight. We just want freedom. Get out of our face.
I think that's really well said. We want that freedom. So you nailed it in 2015. I mean, you saw what the others didn't. 2020 prediction.
Oh, he's gonna crush it. It's not even gonna be. I honestly feel this is gonna be Mike Tyson 1983, and they know it. They know it. Now, I've listened to some people. I listened to people this morning going, well, I don't know. Biden, they're going to get someone else to come in the last second. And, he didn't win by that much. What has happened over the years, from what I see and from what I listen, he's done everything they want. I think he's also did very well during this whole thing, because I see something different. Maybe you don't even see. I see, people go, well, he should tell everyone the way the governor should run things. And I go,
But he's an actual conservative. He's not the dictator. He's letting them decide.
And I said, but then he's a dictator. And then you go off on the Nazi and da-da-da-da-da. But now you're exposing the governors that say, yeah, no, you can go on the beach, but you can't stand still for more than 8 minutes. You can go in the water, but you can't talk to anyone.
If you want to walk on the beach, fine, enjoy that, but no swimming, no lifeguards, no parties, no barbecues, no sports. It's just open space that you can walk on.
What?
Yeah.
You can, and he's exposing them. And I'll tell you what, whether you're into guns or not, when they start saying, we're taking your guns away, you better wake up. Because even Dave Chappelle said something brilliant. I don't know if it was in a special. He said, hey, man, the Second Amendment was created just in case the first don't work out. Well, guess what? In certain areas, it's not working out.
Yeah.
It's starting to not work out.
Well, you definitely see the power grab. You see the power grab in these leftist states, and they're taking it, and they're like, well, now that we got it, we're not exactly giving it back.
No.
And you're seeing that, and that should scare people. Now, I never want to discount sort of the billions of dollars of free media, Hollywood endorsements, the pop culture sort of aspects that they will push at this. So I always say, hey, man, we got to take everything seriously. We got to raise every last dollar. We got to take every last phone call. We got to do everything we possibly can. We can't take anything for granted because, they're starting at such an advantage of just billions of dollars of free hate against Trump, free cover-up for Joe Biden, the Katy Perry inevitable endorsement. It was like when they were like, Hillary, she drew more people than Trump today. It's all over for Donald Trump. I go, wait a minute. You mean the Hillary part where she did a concert with Jay-Z, Beyonce, Bon Jovi, and Bruce Springsteen? You mean, so it's like Trump and a flag versus Hillary and the entire Hollywood ensemble. I'm like, not exactly a fair comparison, but I see them doing it again, and they will keep going.
You got to remember this, though, okay? I feel bad for certain people. Katy Perry wanted to be the next Amy Grant. A lot of people don't know that. She was more into faith. And Johnny Cash, when he first started, he wanted to sing songs about faith. But that industry is controlled. Why don't you sing a little darker stuff? And you can see how where they changed. They got to sexualize them. They got to get a little darker with the lyrics. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for them because I know they don't sleep good at night. I know they question some of the moves they made. But you don't understand, and people don't understand, the power is it's worse than heroin. They say crack was addicting. Power. ever want to lose that. That's why people get addicted to drugs and become alcoholics. It's like the NFL. It's like the kid in high school when he was popular, and then you see him 10 years later, and he's a drunk and he's overweight because he peaked in high school. He didn't realize life continues.
I once scored 4 touchdowns in a single game, and you're living for that moment forever.
Yes, but unfortunately, some of these stars. They reach a point, but I'm telling you, they have to join a club. And some people know what I'm talking about. And once you're in that club, it's real hard to get out. And they have no choice. They do have a choice. They do have a choice. But they don't want to let go of then I lose my mansion. And then I lose my boat. And then I lose my 3 travels. And look who I get to hang out with. Yeah, at the end of the day, you know what? I've hung out with the greatest politicians in the world, the biggest rock stars, athletes. And I can tell you this, people don't want to know what I heard and what I've seen and some of the disturbing things and the fronts. Oh, this is for to heal this and to save the world and to help the children. And it's going right here in their pocket.
Well, that's 100% sure. Now, we're running out of time, but I think everyone knows exactly what that's all about, and that's what we're up against. And honestly, Jim, I think the greatest cure for that would be another 4 years of Trump. Sticking it to him, not letting those guys take over, injecting some common sense back into D.C. And, Jim, I just wanted to thank you for coming on here, for telling it like it is. And, again, like I said, for taking that chance, for being out there, for being, outwardly red-pilled. It's nice to see, buddy.
One quick thing. I respect you as a son because I tell you what, I remember someone said something about my dad, and I got so mad because they said, your dad drinks a lot. And I went, you don't know what he's lived through. How dare you? But I knew it was from their kids. So what you endure as a son, I cannot, that's when I started really following you because I went, for a child to go through, it doesn't matter how old you are, to hear what you hear day in and day out, and your children hear day in and day out about grandpa and your father, I give a lot of respect for you. A lot of respect for you and your family. I really do. God bless you, man. Be safe. Safe journeys.
Thank you very much, Jim. I really appreciate that. That actually means the world to us. It makes all that nonsense all the more worthwhile. So I really appreciate you coming on. Jim Breuer, you've been awesome. Guys, thank you for tuning in to Triggered. We're going to do another episode next week. We're going to keep this going. We're just having some fun, have a little real talk, inject a little fun into comedy, and all of that into politics. We will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for having me, Donnie.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.